So you want to know more about the civil service? Maybe you're changing careers. Maybe you've had enough of the private sector. Perhaps you have a passion for influencing policy and changing people's lives. Well, look no further. In this video, I am going to give you the tea on what it's like to work in the civil service in the UK, based on my experience so far. So if you're interested, keep watching. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Felicia and I'm an economist currently working in the civil service, and I have been doing so for 2.5 years straight after I graduated. So the reason why I'm doing this video is because it's been requested. Following my video on how I became an economist, people would ask me, oh, what's it like to be on the civil service? What's it like to be on a fast stream? Etc, etc. So I'm going to give you the tea on all of that. I guess just a little bit about me. Do feel free to check out my video on how I became an economist. But I started the civil service fast stream around 2.5 years ago, so that was in 2018 September. I worked in a range of different departments, well, just two if we're being honest. And yeah, it's been an interesting experience. I joined because, like many people who join, I do have a passion for using my knowledge, my expertise to actually influence policy and hopefully improve the well-beings of people's lives, you know, and make the world a better place. But you know, if it's not working out, that's not on me. That's on who you people vote for. So put very simply and very basically, civil service is there to provide public services and help the government of the day implement their policies. You know, our work touches all aspects of life. It touches things from education to the environment to transport, you name it. Like, civil servants are there making sure these things run on a day-to-day basis, but also thinking about what's happened in the past and also what's happening in the future and how we can make that happen. We are meant to be, you know, politically impartial because it's not like America where, you know, if you get a new government, the whole civil service changes. It's a little bit different from that. We have to be politically impartial when we get a new government. Our aim is just to support them. So, you know, I can't be out there saying, you know, Boris Johnson is a or, you know, them kind of things there, because it can't run. Even though I do have my own political opinions, that's just how it is. My thoughts on being politically impartial. Well, we're all human. Of course we have political opinions and stuff like that. We just cannot express that. It can be a bit tricky, you know, when perhaps ministers and the government are saying something on TV, and you're like,
oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know they were doing that in my policy area. Interesting.
or, you know, you see an announcement, you're like, oh, okay. Cool. But, you know, it is what it is. It's politics. So civil service actually prides itself on being a good place to work. So when you join, it's like meant to be this progressive kind of, you know, vibrant area. Well, that's how they advertise it. But let me give you some of the pros. So I would say one of the biggest pros is that when you are working on a really high profile policy, it can be really rewarding to actually see your work out there. You know, you see your numbers in the headlines, or the minister or the prime minister is talking about areas that you've worked on or debating it in parliament. So it gives you that sense of like, yeah, you know, you're actually making a difference somehow. So that's really exciting. So for example, I've been working on environment stuff. Well, I was working on that in the past. I'm working in housing now. And you know, this has been really high profile. This is coming into effect. It's going to be really important in the future, especially when we have these like environmental talks and, you know, the environment bill and all of that plan. But then also I was working in local government policy, and I was making the numbers on like how much local authorities can get given the funding pot. Obviously, we know local authorities are stretched and they're underfunded, but hey, it's not my ultimate decision on how much they get. But given what we've got, I can at least influence it to then help situations out. So yeah, it is really rewarding to work on really high profile things. Another thing about working for the civil service is they actually care about your well-being. Well, that's what I found anyways. So, you know, there's lots of flexible working. For example, flexi hours, when you put in more hours, say on one day, and then another day you can claim that back. So that's really cool, because you'll often find that that's the case. And it can be, sometimes you can claim days because, you know, whatever you're working on might take days. So this translates into an actual better work-life balance as well, which I don't think you'll find in many areas, especially not in the private sector. I don't know how you guys are doing it. They're also very disability friendly as well. It'll be crazy though if you're working for the government and the government isn't providing any, adjustments for if you have disabilities. Yeah. Another thing that I love about the civil service is you have the ability and the opportunity to work on multiple different things. So if you decide like, hey, I'm working in housing at the moment, I fancy a little bit of international trade. When you're in the civil service, you log onto civil service jobs and there's a whole wide range of different jobs that are available to you because you're already part of the civil service, and you can just move. Well, okay, you've got to apply for it and you've got to qualify, of course, but it means that 1 minute you could be working on housing, 1 minute you can be working on international trade, 1 minute you can be working on work and pensions, 1 minute you can be working on education, 1 minute you can be working on health, and the list goes on. So that means that you have a lot of opportunities to gain experience in different sectors, different areas, and I think that's quite cool. I don't know any other place where you'd get that kind of exposure or opportunities just like that. One thing that I would say is a benefit is also the stability in terms of, when the pandemic happened, I was chilling. I know that lots of people lost their jobs, lots of people had to get reduced hours. One pro about working with the civil service is that you kind of know your job is on the safe side, unless you're working on something that's a bit like temperamental. But I can't even give you examples of that because chances are you'll probably know it's coming and then you just move to another job in the civil services, which is more stable. Another pro is actually the pension is really good. I don't know much about pensions, but I know that the civil service has a good pension if that's the kind of thing you're interested in. Right, so on to the negatives. I cannot lie, even though the civil service is like good, as I've explained, there can be some negative parts to it. For example, things do move a bit slower. Oh my god, there is so much bureaucracy in it because maybe you want to make a change. Yeah, maybe you want to do something. You will tell your manager and your manager will tell the senior managers. The senior managers maybe might tell the deputy directors and the directors and stuff like that. And there's so many different processes and stuff just to go through. Yeah, just to implement this work. And then you're thinking about, okay, when it finally gets to the minister has to debate the parliament, and that's usually in the House of Commons, and then you got the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and then all of that kind of stuff. But it all depends on what kind of policy you're working on, and if it's a big change or a small change or it's a brand new policy. Yeah, there's so many processes. So it can take a while for things to happen and change to be made. And because of that, people might get frustrated with the pace of work when it comes to some things, because you'll find that it's quite chilled in most areas. Another con is that, it depends on how you look at it. So because things are a lot slower and there's lots of stability in the civil service, it's not as vibrant, young and dynamic as you would think it would be. And so maybe you might be on the fast stream where you start with a cohort of people. Then you might be around people who are like young and vibrant and really like ready to go. But chances are, like, if you're just in a normal part of the civil service, you got a lot of people there who are like comfortable in their role. This is a life job for them. So it's not going to be the same as, if you're working in a private sector job where it's like fast, we're trying to get this, we're trying to get that, fast paced, it's vibrant, we're trying to meet this deadline and that deadline, we need to deliver to this client. No, it's not even like that at all. Okay, so things like benefits. Don't even think about bonuses. Don't even worry about, rewards and all that stuff. Like, you're there to do your job and that is it. So whereas in some other jobs, in other workplaces, you might get a cheeky bonus here or there. They don't do that here. That's not that's not a thing. Listen, these people don't even pay for tea and coffee or milk. We have to buy our own milk. All they provide is hot water. We have to buy our own biscuits. We have to buy our own biscuits here. We fund our own Christmas parties. I was a little bit taken back because I was like, I've been in workplaces where, the workplace funds the Christmas parties and the biscuits and stuff. But, apparently that's unpopular with taxpayers. Okay, so that's just a general, gist of what it's like to work in the civil service from my experience. But I know some of you are really interested in the fast stream. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the fast stream, my experience and how I found it, and then give you some of the pros and cons. So what is the Civil Service Fast Stream? So the Fast Stream is basically the flagship graduate program scheme which aims to accelerate people into leadership positions in the civil service. You can do this in a range of areas. So you can do it in project delivery, tech, science. Maybe you're an economist like me maybe you want to work in Parliament. Maybe you just want to do policy, like general policy stuff. The fast stream covers all of that, and it's meant to fast track you to leadership position. I'm not saying this because I'm the Fast Stream ambassador and, you know, my face is on the campaign and stuff. I think that one of the pros is that you get to meet a lot of people. There's a lot of opportunities for you to develop, attend these different learning and development events and courses and training. If you have really good management, that's a big if, you'll get the opportunities to be pushed outside of your comfort zone and really grow and learn from that, which is something I benefited in definitely in my first role. It was so rewarding and I felt like I really grew. You also get to enjoy some of the different fast stream networks, whether it's the environment network, the race network, you know, a whole bunch of different things. Kind of want that, you know, feel like you're part of something more, something bigger besides work. So one of the things that I'm not too keen on or too fond of the fast stream is that the scheme isn't consistent across all streams. A lot of what you experience on the fast stream is dependent on whether your stream is centrally managed or it's like departmental managed. And let me explain that a little bit more. So if you're on one of like the policy schemes, like so the generalist scheme, which is about policy, a lot of your learning and development is managed by Cabinet Office. So everyone has this set of things that they need to achieve in order to finish and complete their fast stream. They have a fast stream manager as well as their manager within the departments that they're placed in. However, if your scheme is managed by the departments, there's no central management. Your managers and the chief economist in that department determines what you learn and your experience. You're not going to have that same cohesiveness as, you know, someone who is on the stream that is more centrally managed. There are some pros and cons in this though. When you are in a centrally managed fast stream, that means, you know, the pace at which you can progress is kind of predetermined. Whereas if you're in a non-centrally managed stream, the pace at which you progress, you get to determine that. So if you're on the fast stream for like, I don't know, 1.5 years or 2 years and you think like, yeah, I actually want to go a grade up, you can actually just apply and do that. So that means you can progress quicker as opposed to if you are on a different scheme.
On the flip side,
your experiences, your learning and development opportunities on the non-centrally managed fast stream are highly dependent on wherever you get placed. So you could be lucky and be placed in a department where your managers, your chief economist, or your chief, whoever is running your stream in that department, is really keen on pushing everyone to go for development opportunities, to get exposed. But then on the flip side, you can be really unlucky and get managers and people who they just want the learning and development that's going to help you in the role that you're in and not necessarily on the wider goal of the fast stream. It really does depend on, you know, luck. It can be a pro and a con. I do believe now they're making some changes, especially in the economist fast stream, where it's going to be a little bit more standardized across the board. Also, the pay does vary by departments. Your salary can actually range, and that depends on, again, what department you're placed in. But, you know, it's okay. It's something that can be navigated, and if you know what you want to achieve, you should go out there and achieve it. Don't let anyone get in the way. So how was the process? I know some people wanted to know how the assessment process was and what I went through. I must admit, they have changed the process since I first started. And, you know, there's been a pandemic. So things are going to be online, or they have been online. And they may have made a few tweaks to the assessment process. So I've had a look online just to make sure it's largely similar to what I experienced. And I can talk through that experience with you. So for the fast stream, you've got online tests. So the online tests, they're not that difficult. I think there was like a situational judgment test, you know, a work style test, and it's multiple choice. So you had like 5 days after you submitted your application to complete this. And I guess this is just to sift out people who are serious and not unserious and stuff. So it's not something that you should be worried about if you are applying. And you know, you can have a look online to see situational judgment tests, mocks and stuff like that, and that should really help. Then from the online test, you get work-based scenarios. So this is like an online case study. It's got multiple media apparently. I didn't experience this work-based scenarios thing. I think that might be new. There are some resources out there if you are interested, I do believe. Next was the video interview. It were basically people who were pre-recorded asking questions about the fast stream and what you'll do. So basically like a normal interview, but this was obviously standardized because it wasn't like you were speaking with somebody real. Like it was pre-recorded and you had like a timer and you just had to speak as if you were speaking to someone. Yeah, I would say don't worry about that. Just be normal. Everything's been online now, so hopefully people have been used to speaking to cameras. Then it was additional information. So I remember this. So you can actually apply to up to 4 streams in one go, depending on the schemes you qualify for based on like the answers you've given in the video interview and all the other stuff. You will get asked additional questions related to the streams you've applied for. This is like submit 250 words about what experience you have, you know, with international stuff, like if you go on the diplomatic fast stream. So that's all the online stuff. Then you've got the actual fast stream assessment center. This one is like half a day and you go there and there's like 3 different things. It's online now, so I'm not really sure how they organize that and do that. But in my experience, you go there, you know, they give you tea, coffee, biscuits, cake, you know, it's quite nice. You deliver a presentation, you have team-based work, and then you also have like a written exercise as well. It's intense. I would definitely say prepare in advance, especially for the written one. It's basically like comprehension. Can you summarize this thing? Can you deliver it in this context very quickly, get to the point? But also definitely practice your presentation skills as well, especially to different audiences. With the teamwork, just make sure you are letting others speak, but then also, you know, make sure you're being heard as well. So trying to strike that balance would definitely help. After that, but this depends on your stream. Generalists don't have to go through that. Fast Stream Assessment Center is like where they're done, finished. If you are like on a specialist stream, for example, like the economist one or the diplomatic one, you get the final selection board. So final selection board is basically more tailored to your stream. For the economist stream final selection board, I still had to deliver another presentation. This was more based on an economic topic of my choice, but they give you like a week to prepare for that, or 2 weeks depending on whenever it is they tell you you've made it to that point. And you also had to answer some other multiple choice questions, again basic economic concepts, which was timed as well. And after that, then they let you know whether you've passed. I also did the diplomatic final selection board. Oh my god, that one was that one was mad because they actually had actors. So I had to act out 2 scenarios. One scenario was where I was managing a difficult employee, and I just come out of university. I didn't know how to manage people who were difficult, so that was tricky. And secondly, you're reporting to someone who is senior and they're quite agitated. They want to, do things, but you need to communicate difficult situations and trade-offs and stuff to them. That one was a little bit more easier for me personally, but I didn't get that. That's why I am just an economist, not a diplomatic economist. This is a very intense assessment process, but it is what it is, So that concludes what I have to say on my experience and my thoughts on the civil service, as well as the civil service fast stream. I would definitely recommend the civil service as a good place to understand more about how policy making works if you are interested in that sector. If you're maybe fed up of the private sector, you might want to join, or if you're just a student who's curious about what it's like to work in the civil service, please do let me know if this video was helpful, if you'd like to find out more, if you have specific questions. Oh yeah, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, because I do want to make more career-based videos where I can, and also more conversational style videos for people who may be interested. And yeah, see you in the next video. Bye!